Her husband forgot her birthday. So she did this to him. Dear viewers, welcome back to my channel. Subscribe to this channel if you're new here. The morning sun filtered softly through the white curtains of the Caldwell home, casting a golden hue across the neatly arranged kitchen. Sonia Caldwell stood by the window, her coffee cup warming her hands as she watched a pair of birds flutter near the fence. Her heart was light. Today wasn't just another Thursday, it was her birthday. She'd dropped subtle hints all week. A conversation about favorite cake flavors. A shared memory of last year's dinner by candlelight. Even a reminder about how quickly time was flying, but Ryan hadn't seemed to catch on. He came down the stairs with his phone in one hand and his tie in the other, half-dressed and entirely preoccupied. "Morning, babe," he said absent-mindedly, brushing a quick kiss on her cheek before reaching for the coffee pot. Sonia smiled faintly. "Morning." He didn't notice the way she lingered near the counter where a single cupcake sat, its candle waiting. He didn't notice the small sparkle in her eyes when she hoped he'd say something. Instead he mumbled, "Did you see my gray socks? The ones I wear for client meetings." She blinked, her smile fading. "Laundry basket, I think." Right. He gave a half-grin and disappeared back upstairs. The house felt suddenly hollow. Sonia took a deep breath, reminding herself not to make it a big deal. Maybe he had something planned for later. A surprise, maybe dinner. But as the hours rolled on, her optimism began to wilt. By noon, she was at her art studio downtown, painting with a distracted hand. Her phone buzzed occasionally with texts from friends. "Happy birthday, girl. You celebrating tonight?" Even Lisa called. "Hey, birthday queen." Lisa's voice was bubbly through the speaker. "What's the plan tonight?" "Romantic dinner." "Bah. Don't tell me that man of yours forgot." Sonia hesitated. "I'm sure he's just busy. You know how he is." Lisa laughed dryly. "Busy or blind? Girl, if my man forgot, I'd make him remember in a way he'd never forget." Sonia chuckled softly. "You always say that." "I mean it. Don't go soft. If he loves you, he'll learn." After hanging up, Sonia stared at the half-finished canvas. It was supposed to be bright, full of yellows and oranges, but her brush dipped into muted gray instead. When she returned home that evening, the lights were on, and Ryan was on the couch, half asleep with his laptop still open beside him. Chinese takeout containers sat on the coffee table. The television hummed softly in the background, playing a rerun of The Office. She dropped her bag gently on the counter. "Long day?" she asked, forcing lightness into her tone. "Yeah," he muttered, rubbing his eyes. That client presentation was brutal. He didn't look up. Didn't notice her new dress. Didn't notice the small pendant necklace she'd bought for herself. "Did you eat?" he asked. "Yeah," she said quietly, though she hadn't. He smiled drowsily. "Good. I'm exhausted." He leaned back on the couch, already drifting toward sleep. Sonia stood there for a long moment, the room dim except for the flickering blue light of the TV. She felt invisible, not unloved but unseen. She sat on the edge of the couch and studied his face. The man she married. Caring, funny, forgetful. The man who once drove through a snowstorm just to bring her soup when she was sick. But tonight, he had forgotten the one day that meant the most to her. Her heart ached quietly. No shouting, no anger. Just a small, sharp sadness that pressed behind her ribs. She reached for the remote, turned off the TV and whispered, "Good night, Ryan." He murmured something unintelligible and shifted in his sleep. Sonia walked to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, and stared at her reflection in the dark window. Her phone buzzed again, a message from Lisa. Did he remember? Sonia typed back slowly, "No. But I think I'll help him remember tomorrow." She placed her phone face down, the corner of her mouth curling just slightly. The night was still and heavy, but something mischievous stirred behind her calm expression. Tomorrow, she decided, he'd definitely remember. She turned off the lights and climbed into bed beside him, the faint scent of takeout still in the air. Outside, the rain began to fall gently, soft and rhythmic, like a drumbeat counting down to something inevitable. The morning came quietly, with gray clouds pressing low against Portland's skyline. Sonia woke to the faint sound of Ryan's steady snoring beside her. For a long moment, she simply watched him. The soft rise and fall of his chest, the hint of stubble along his jaw, the peaceful oblivion of someone who had no idea the storm he'd slept through. Her disappointment from last night had cooled into something else. Not fury. Not even bitterness. Something more playful, deliberate. A plan had formed in her mind between midnight thoughts and early dawn light. She slipped out of bed, careful not to wake him, and padded toward the kitchen. The floor was cool against her feet. On the counter, she found the half-full container of cornstarch she used for baking. She ran her finger through the fine white powder and smiled. Lisa would be proud, she murmured under her breath. Lisa had always said that the best lessons weren't shouted, they were felt. Sonia grabbed a mixing bowl, poured the cornstarch in, and added just a touch of water to make it slightly heavier. The mixture puffed up in a soft cloud that made her cough and laugh quietly. As she stirred, her mind replayed the previous night. The way Ryan had fallen asleep mid-sentence, the faint sound of a TV laugh track echoing through the room, the untouched cupcake she'd thrown away before bed. She wasn't angry anymore. She was amused by how much effort she'd put into hoping he'd remember. "All right, Mr. Forgetful," she whispered. "Time for a birthday surprise you'll never forget." She peeked into the living room. Ryan was sprawled across the couch now. His arm draped over his face, breathing deep and even. The laptop was closed, the remnants of takeout still scattered across the coffee table. Sonia grabbed her phone, opened the camera app, and set it to record. "This is for future reference," she said softly, smiling into the lens. She tiptoed forward with the bowl held carefully in her hands. Her heart raced with quiet laughter she dared not release too soon. The moment stretched, one slow, delicious second before impact. Then whoosh. A cloud of cornstarch burst into the air as she dumped the entire bowl over his chest and face. Ryan shot up instantly, choking and blinking through a storm of white dust. "What the, Sonia?" His voice cracked in disbelief. Sonia doubled over laughing, clutching her stomach. "Happy birthday to me," she managed between giggles. He stared at her, coated in fine powder like a ghostly statue, his hair sticking up wildly. The sight was so absurd that even he began to laugh, half in confusion, half in surrender. You threw flour on me." "Cornstarch," she corrected proudly. "And for the record, this is what happens when a man forgets the most important day of the year." He wiped at his face, smearing the powder worse. "You're insane." "Maybe," she said, grinning, "but at least I remember birthdays." Ryan looked around at the mess, the couch dusted in white, the air shimmering with powder motes. Then he caught the red light blinking from her phone camera. "You're recording this?" "Oh yes," she said, picking it up and aiming it at him again. "For future reminders. You know, in case you ever forget again." He ran a hand through his hair, releasing another puff of white. "You're unbelievable. You forgot my birthday," she replied simply, the laughter softening in her voice. "So I figured a visual reminder might help next time." For a moment their eyes met. His filled with apology, hers with mischievous affection. Ryan's expression melted into a smile. All right, I deserve that." "You do," she said, setting the phone down and grabbing a towel. "But consider it a gentle lesson. No harm done." He reached for her wrist before she could turn away. "I'm sorry, Sonia. I really am. Work's been chaos and I." She held up a hand. "Don't say it. Just remember next time." There was warmth behind her teasing tone, forgiveness tucked between the words. He nodded slowly. "Deal. Though, for the record, you're terrifying when you're calm." She laughed again, shaking her head as she brushed cornstarch off his shoulder. "And you're ridiculous when you're guilty." By the time the morning light fully broke through the windows, The living room looked like a bakery explosion. Ryan insisted on cleaning it up himself while Sonia brewed coffee, the faint smell of roast beans cutting through the powdery air. As he worked, she caught him glancing her way. Smiling, shaking his head. "You know," he said, "I was planning to order a cake today." "Oh really?" she asked, one eyebrow raised. "Yeah, double chocolate. But now I'm reconsidering." She giggled. "You're going to eat every bite of it, mister." He leaned in, brushing his thumb across her cheek. "Next year I'll do better. Promise." Sonia looked up at him, eyes softening. "You better. Because next time I might upgrade to whipped cream." They both laughed, the tension dissolving into shared amusement. For the rest of the morning they moved around the kitchen in easy rhythm, their banter light, their smiles genuine. By noon, Ryan had snuck out and returned with a bouquet of sunflowers, her favorite, and a slice of strawberry shortcake from her favorite cafe. He placed it in front of her, slightly sheepish. "A peace offering," he said. Sonia looked at the cake, then at the man still dusted faintly with cornstarch. She shook her head, smiling. "You're lucky I love you." Ryan grinned. "I know." The rest of the day flowed quietly, the way simple days do, filled with laughter, forgiveness, and the smell of sugar in the air. That evening, the living room still smelled faintly of cornstarch and coffee. Ryan had cleaned most of it up, but a thin white haze clung to the edges of the couch, a quiet reminder of Sonia's playful revenge. He'd been unusually attentive all day. He cooked breakfast, did the laundry, even played her favorite Ed Sheeran playlist while humming off-key. Sonia pretended not to notice, though her heart softened each time he looked her way. When dusk fell, he called her into the dining room. "Close your eyes," he said, taking her hand. "Ryan, if this is another prank, just trust me." She obeyed. He guided her a few steps forward, the air thick with the scent of vanilla candles. "Okay," he whispered. "Open." Her breath caught. On the table sat a small strawberry shortcake topped with 2 candles, one shaped like a heart, the other like a sunflower. "Happy birthday, Sonia," he said quietly. "I'm sorry I forgot last night." She blinked, tears mixing with a smile. "You did all this." He nodded. "You reminded me, in your own messy way." Sonia laughed softly. "Guess the cornstarch worked." "It did," he said, touching her hand. "You deserve more than a silly prank. You deserve to be remembered every single day." They ate cake together, giggling between bites, brushing crumbs off each other's faces. The earlier tension dissolved completely, replaced by something warmer, that quiet understanding couples find when they've fought, forgiven, and chosen love again. Later, as they sat curled on the couch, Sonia rested her head on his shoulder. "You know," she murmured, "next time maybe I'll just write you a note instead of covering you in white dust." Ryan chuckled. "No, keep the cornstarch. It's unforgettable." They both laughed, the room glowing in candlelight, love settling between them like peace after a storm. The following morning, sunshine streamed through the curtains, catching specks of white still lingering on the floor. Sonia brewed coffee while humming softly, her mood lighter than it had been in weeks. Ryan walked in wearing a sheepish grin. He had a small paper bag in his hand and flour dusted across his sleeve. Sonia eyed him suspiciously. "You're not planning to start another cornstarch war, are you?" He laughed. "Not this time." He handed her the bag. Inside was a small silver locket engraved with the words, "Never again." She opened it and found 2 tiny photos, one from their wedding day, the other from last night's cake moment. Her lips parted. "Ryan, it's perfect." He leaned closer, voice low. "A reminder that I'll never forget again. Not your birthday. Not you." Her eyes softened. "You really mean that? More than anything." She hugged him, pressing her face against his shoulder. The earlier frustration had dissolved completely. What remained was something deeper. Gratitude, connection, renewed affection. Later that day, Lisa dropped by, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. "So, did you make him pay?" Sonia chuckled. Let's just say, he'll never forget my birthday again. Lisa raised a brow. You didn't hurt him, did you? Only his pride, Sonia teased. As the women laughed, Ryan appeared behind them, holding a tray of cookies. Ladies, peace offering. Lisa smirked. Smart man. You've learned. The three of them laughed, the tension of the forgotten birthday replaced by light-hearted warmth. That night, Ryan posted a photo on his social media. The locket glinting in Sonia's hand, the caption reading, "When you forget her birthday once, you never forget again." The post quietly went viral among their friends. A funny, heartfelt glimpse of real married life. When Sonia saw it, she shook her head with a smile. Guess everyone knows now. Let them, Ryan said. Maybe it'll remind a few other husbands too. The two clinked glasses of wine, laughter filling the room once again. It wasn't the perfect birthday she had imagined, but in its messy human way it was even better. A week later, Sonia and Ryan were back to their usual rhythm. Morning coffee, shared jokes, and soft arguments about who left the light on. But something had changed. He remembered her small joys now. The vanilla creamer she liked, the way she wanted her tea slightly oversteeped, the shows that made her laugh before bed. It wasn't about one birthday anymore. It was about attention, the quiet kind that keeps love alive. One evening, Sonia uploaded a short clip of their cornstarch incident to her vlog, the part where Ryan woke up covered in powder, blinking in shock. Within days, comments poured in. This couple is hilarious. He'll never forget again, that's for sure, face with tears of joy. True love is forgiving and funny. Sonia smiled reading them. Looks like people relate, she said. Ryan grinned. Maybe you should make a whole series. Lessons from the cornstarch wife. Tempting, she said with a laugh. They leaned into each other on the couch, warmth and laughter replacing the sting of that forgotten day. What started as hurt had turned into a memory they'd both cherish, because love, when handled with humor and grace, always finds its way back home. And just before the video faded to black, Sonia's voice chimed softly over the outro. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If this little story made you smile today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a laugh. Love isn't perfect, but it's worth it.